Okay, let's finish up the sentence study. We had finished the parts of speech on sentence 2, so we're going to kind of cruise through and we're going to look at some of the rest of the stuff we have to take care of. We had the, looks like noun phrases are taken care of, and most of the verb phrases, so we have to finish up the verb phrases. Okay, so as we look through verb phrases, we should have has offered, will be permitted, run, have urged, and stay. Okay, that'll lead us up to the prepositional phrases. Prepositional phrases are in red. We have for office and in the March elections. And remember, anytime you guys need to pause to catch up, just go ahead and pause the video, catch up, and then you can hit play again. Okay, look for the purple. We have our adjective phrases: the Iranian, reformist, the March, and there. Okay, looking for this weird orangish color. I don't know what it is. We have while, adverb phrase, the subordinate conjunction works as an adverb phrase. Then we have in the March elections, that prepositional phrase. And we have for office, that prepositional phrase, all working as adverb phrases. Next up, we'll take a look at the magenta color. We have the infinitive phrases. First one up, to run for office in the March elections. And the second one, down here, to stay home. Total points for our phrases, we have 26. Okay, let's go ahead and bump this down and take a look at our subordinate clauses. As we go through, we have our first subordinate clause starts off with that subordinate conjunction, goes all the way to the comma. So we have, while the Iranian leadership has offered assurances that reformist candidates will be permitted to run for office in the March elections. We have an adverb clause. And then, of course, inside that, we also have a relative pronoun starting us off, that reform candidates will be permitted to run for office in the March elections. That all goes together. And this is working as an adjective clause. Okay, remember, a relative pronoun typically starts off the adjective clause, and that is modifying assurances. Okay, so we have adverb clause on the outside, the whole big thing. Adjective clause is tucked in on the inside. Okay, and that gives us 10 points for that one. By the way, who picked this sentence? Awesome. Okay, we got a good one going here. Alright, let's edge this down a little bit more. Looking at the main clause, remember, our main clause we have left starts with Mr. Musavi and Mr. Karabi. So let's jump over and take care of those. Subject of the main clause, Mr. Musavi and Mr. Karabi. Okay, verb, we have urged. And we have some stuff down here. I'll just go ahead and circle it. That'll probably be the easiest way to do it. And this links up with this. And if you just had supporters, that'll be okay, because the to stay home is modifying the supporters, but if you just have their supporters, I'm fine with that. So we have direct object. Okay, looking back over here at the adverb clause, let's go ahead and check that out. We have the Iranian leadership, subject, has offered, and that's going to be our verb. And then we have assurances, and remember later on anything that modifies will go with it. So later on we'll start getting really technical and we'll push that whole adjective clause in there with it. So for now we'll just look at assurances by itself. Okay, and then if we go a step further and we take a look, change it up here, and we have our subject of our adjective clause. Reform as candidates. Our verb will be permitted, and then that whole infinitive phrase is going to be our direct object. Okay. Double check that, make sure everybody's good there. And then when you're catching up on your points, you got 9 points total there. Okay, type of sentence. We have one main clause, two subordinate clauses, so that qualifies for complex. And we have a 5-pointer. Okay, total points for that sentence, 83. Okay, just double checking there. Okay, jumping ahead, looking at sentence number 3. Everything's labeled in blue for the parts of speech, so we're checking out the possessives. Remember, the possessives are adjectives, so check those out, with the exception of the possessive pronouns. So when we're looking at its, we have its in the second line and its in the third line. We have to make sure we have those labeled as pronouns. Okay, as you're going through, check through everything else, make sure that you're good. Okay, next up we're looking at noun phrases. We've got those taken care of in the blue as well. So we have Iran's economy, Western sanctions, its nuclear program, discussion, new sanctions, and its oil exports. Okay, that jumps us to our verb phrases. So you check out the magenta color. We have reeling, has been hit, and aimed. Alright, next up we have our prepositional phrases in orange from Western sanctions, over its nuclear program, and because that over its nuclear program modifies sanctions, then keep in mind we also have that big one. Remember, we need to watch for those. That all works as one big one as well. And then we have by discussion of new sanctions, and again, because of new sanctions modifies by discussion, we have that big one by discussion of new sanctions. And then finally, at its oil exports. Okay, that brings us over to the adjective phrases. So we start off Iran's, that possessive. Then we look at Western, its nuclear. And while we're there, let's go ahead and take care of the prepositional phrase, over its nuclear program. Remember, over its nuclear program, we said is modifying sanctions. Next up in the line, we have new. And again, while we're there, take care of that prepositional phrase, of new sanctions. That's modifying discussions, so working as an adjective phrase. Then we have its oil. And then hanging out there in the end, the world's third largest. Okay, next up we're left with our adverb phrases already, our prepositional phrase from Western sanctions. Down the second line we have adverb phrase hard, then our prepositional phrase by discussion, and in the third line we have our prepositional phrase at its oil exports. Okay, next we've got a pair of participial phrases. Let's go ahead and box these up. They kind of separated off with commas for us. That's really cool. So that works out. already reeling from Western sanctions over its nuclear program. Remember that verb acting as an adjective, all the adverbs and prepositional phrases that are modifying it go with it. Modifying economy. So we have verb acting as an adjective. So we have a participial phrase there. And then we have this crazy little guy down here hanging out, aimed at its oil exports. And I'm going to go ahead and take with it. If you didn't take the world's third largest with it, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I'll explain that one in just a second. We have a participial phrase there. Okay, so aimed at its oil exports, the world's third largest. Aimed, that verb in the ed form. Verb is acting as an adjective. It's describing sanctions. Okay. Okay, and this little guy right here with all kinds of craziness going on. The world's third largest. If that had a noun, like the third world's largest export, if it had that, then we would have an appositive phrase. But because we don't, we just have an adjective phrase hanging out by itself. So we're just going to let it be an adjective phrase. That's all it is. Okay, 32 possible points on the phrases. Who picked these cool sentences? Okay, so as we look through on the clauses, we did not have any adverb clauses. We did not have any adjective clauses. We had this part taken up, the already reeling from Western sanctions over its nuclear program. We said that was a participial phrase. We said aimed at its oil exports, the world's third largest, another participial phrase. So we're left with just the main clause. Okay, remember if you accidentally messed up and you put some kind of clause in there, -5. Okay. Okay, that takes us down to the bottom. Looking for the subject. Iran's economy. Subject. Verb. Has been hit. And the rest of it's just kind of hanging out. So we have subject, verb, that's it. 2-pointer. Okay, and big money, we have a simple sentence. Okay, and that's a 5-pointer. Okay, so we have 68 total possible points on that one. Okay, let's add all these up and do some crazy Langley math here. Our second sentence was 83, and our first sentence was 63. Okay, so we have 214 total points when we add that up, and I told you guys I was going to give you a couple extra bonus points. So as we're looking through this one, let's go ahead and take 214, take that minus your number wrong. Okay, take that number, put that number, let's go over 194. Let's give you guys some good bonus points. Okay, once you have your number over 194, make sure you guys go ahead and turn that into the sub, and then we'll be ready for the next